For the last couple of years, most of the attention that crypto and digital assets have gotten has been on the side of investing in speculation. The idea that if you buy these assets at a low value, then you wait a while, maybe not a long time, they will go up and you will realize some sort of profit. However, the digital assets and blockchain space has a much larger and more significant role to play in our next version of the financial system. So, we're going to break that down for you today in this video. Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Molly. Today we're going to talk about blockchain for businesses and how the real life-changing opportunities that are going to come from digital assets and blockchain technology really don't have much to do with investing or speculation. They are the rails that the new financial system will be running on. Now, I live in this echo chamber of talking about digital assets and blockchain things and XRP a lot, you could say all day long. That would not be an unfair characterization. However, I recently, every now and then I leave my echo chamber and I go hang out with people in the not in that echo chamber, and I realize that there's many business owners who are not aware that a new financial system is coming. The mainstream media press doesn't cover this explicitly or directly. There are hints. You sometimes have to play a little bit of clue in puzzling and connecting the dots. And what I mean by this is that for the last couple of years, the financial press, especially things in like trade publications and press releases and industry organizations, have been very clear that nations and banks are moving to blockchain digital currencies. We can call them CBDCs. CBDCs get kind of a bad rep, partly from me, because for a long time I had a kind of concerning belief that this was like a new dystopian form of money where we were going to kind of be oppressed by a centralized mechanism that was going to try to steal our civil rights, essentially. That is one thing that is possible with CBDs. But what we're going to talk about today for the purposes of businesses are how blockchain based money can be used to dramatically improve efficiency in business. So we're going to leave aside all the dystopian 1984 stuff, and we're going to talk about how this can be applied to make your business more money. I mean, if you're not in business to make money, you might want to revisit that, because businesses that make money have a lot more options to do things for their clients, for their employees, and for the community as a whole. Okay, so we have been seeing and reading for a while now endless press releases about nations and banks issuing CBDCs. They're either done, they're either planning them, or they're either in the phases of implementing. There's all this sort of different staggered timeline for how that's going to work. And what the takeaway is for me is that this is coming. There's too many benefits and upsides to using blockchain payments for money. Now, I like cash, probably more in theory than in practice, because it is definitely more convenient to use cards. But I love the concept of cash, that I can give you some money without anyone else having to know about it or be their concern. But the reality is that most businesses don't operate in cash, because you're using invoicing systems, you're using payroll systems, and that doesn't obviously lend itself very well to a cash-based system. So for a very long time, we have lived in this digital money world. There's been just one big glaring problem with the current system, is that I can send you an invoice and you can pay that invoice, which means we now have an agreement that we're going to exchange money, but the money doesn't actually get exchanged. It has to go through the banking system, where one bank, if they're a big bank, they have to kind of call up their other branch where you have your account, and they have to say, hey, I got a bunch of money for this guy, go credit his account. And they use these things called Nostro Vostro accounts that are used to credit and debit money. Now, this definitely is a big deal in the international cross-border payments, but even domestically within a country, like nobody's like emailing money or physically or even like digitally sending money. That doesn't exist. It's just been a system of debiting and crediting various accounts to settle up at the end of the day, which is why this process is called settlement. This is slow. This is why if you've ever made a payment with PayPal, it looks like the money's there right away, but it doesn't show up to your bank account for a couple of days. And this is because this settlement process is just very antiquated and old school. And it's expensive for businesses. There are some consequences for it, which we're going to talk about in a second. The migration to blockchain-based payments will solve those problems pretty significantly. Now, when it comes to talking about this migration to a new financial system, unless you're in this world all day long like me, it might sound a little bit far-fetched. You might be like, wait, this is like a futuristic idea where one day, in a long time from now, we'll have this new monetary system. I strongly urge you to reconsider that if your belief is that this is a faraway idea. The banks have been warning us. Nations have been warning us. The IMF has been warning us. The BIS has been warning us. These entities that are part of the decision-making about when these shifts occur have been pretty clear that this is coming soon. Now, there's two beliefs about when this will happen. Some believe that we'll wake up one day and they're going to flip the switch and something crazy will happen and the system will be different. I used to believe that until I dig into like the logistics of how that would work. It would be a mess. So I'm now more in the camp that I think there's going to be a little bit of a transition where we're going to see a lot of these CBDCs get used. Then there still might be some kind of event that helps trigger in adoption at a broader scale. Regardless, it's going to happen fast. The financial markets are preparing to be tokenized. I've covered this in the channel. I'll put the videos in the description. Project Ion and Project Guardian are two pilot projects that demonstrated blockchain digital payments can be used for the capital markets. One was for bond market, for institutional traders. It was like a DeFi thing. The other one was for settling of stock market type thing. So the SEC has also stated that blockchain assets for settlement is something they're supporting as a policy. Why would they go through all of this if it wasn't something that was going to be coming imminently? Now, there are a couple of key opportunities for businesses who know this is coming, but aren't really sure what to do. First step I would suggest is to learn about how blockchain payments work and how your business specifically will need to adapt. There's a bunch of really cool companies out there. I don't know if these would be specifically companies for your business or a business that you are maybe helping or advising, but they're good examples of how a company can kind of come in, solve a problem using blockchain. Stellar's been amazing at pioneering the payment space for either business to person payments or person to person payments, where Ripple XRP is more focused on bank to bank wholesale. The Stellar ecosystem is probably a great platform or blockchain for many businesses who want to solve blockchain-based problems. Bitwage is a business that runs on the Stellar blockchain. It's a payroll service that supports international clients, primarily in emerging markets. We're not seeing a lot of this stuff done in the US, I think because it's the largest market and there's been some major resistance on the part of the US regulators to get this stuff going. But outside the US, we're seeing some incredible progress with many of these new technologies. So Bitwage is payroll service. It supports international clients who need to get paid in a different currency. So let's say you're a company in Brazil and you have employees in every other country in South America, each of which has a different currency. So I could pay you in my currency, but then you have to swap it. Just becomes kind of a pain in the neck. So they have this service that will allow for the USDC that you would pay them in to be converted to a local currency for their convenience. So this stuff can happen pretty seamlessly from a technology perspective, but this is solving a real problem that I'm an employer, my employees in other countries, I have to pay them, I want to pay them in their local currency. Banks weren't making that easy, is my understanding. Now we have these new businesses that are popping up to help solve that problem. Another interesting one is Tribal, which is a credit card business also serving the emerging markets, Latin American area, that uses blockchain for payments. If you think about Imagine you're a business that does a lot of credit card payments, whether you are charging stuff like your employees' expenses or whether you're even receiving payments. There's a hefty transaction fee. Now, you could argue that that is a valuable service. It was definitely necessary. Credit cards are very convenient. But I think we're going to see an incredible shift to blockchain payments for those companies that have been using credit cards and paying pretty high transaction fees. And this tribal company even has a blockchain based rewards program, which, if you've ever been a business traveler and gotten sucked into the frequent flyer rewards programs, you know that those are very valuable and sticky, which means in marketing speak, people don't swap from one thing to the other when they get totally sucked into a rewards program. So if you think too about businesses generally, like there's kind of three broad categories of expenses or payment types that a business engages in. I'm making some generalizations here, so give me a little slack. Generally, you have payroll. So you have to pay your employees. It's on a schedule, typically every 2 weeks kind of thing. Then you have accounts payable, which are the bills you pay. So stuff your company buys that you have to pay for. Then you have accounts receivables, which is then money that you're billing to your clients that you have to receive that money in return. Hopefully I got that right. Accounting is not really my jam, but anyway, you got to pay bills, receive money, and pay your employees. And these can all now be done using blockchain solutions. The nice thing about using this new advanced technology is it's going to be much faster. So, if you're familiar at all with how payroll works, what happens is when you're the company, this is, I'm assuming you use a service like Paychex kind of thing. You go and you submit the form or whatever saying all these employees need to get paid, and the bank sucks the money out of your account and it gets held for a couple of days. And that entity rents that money out for interest. That's how they make their money. That's why a lot of these bill pay services are free for you to use, is because they're making money off the float. That means that money, your money, if you're the employer, is sitting there for a couple of days. I mean, that's awesome that your bank gets to make money, but that's your money. And that float sits there for a couple of days and then eventually gets deposited or credited into the employees' accounts. So that's one real opportunity for businesses to take more ownership of their assets and not be forced, unfortunately, to kind of rent their money out to banks who make money off the float. Then we have another situation where, let's say that I am in the billing department and I bill my clients, and we got a lot of clients. I'm sending out tons of invoices all day long. And I got to hire 3 people because I have to follow up. Client 1 didn't pay the bill, client 3 is 3 months late. You have to badger people to follow up on these unpaid invoices. Well, one cool thing about using blockchain technology for transactions is the settlement goes through instantly. So it would just dramatically shift how we pay our bills. Now, somebody could still not click the invoice, even if it's blockchain payments. But the idea is you could set things up to be executed in a way where when both sides are in agreement, I have the money, I have the thing you want to buy, we're good. All right, then we swap, the transaction goes through. And even kind of related to that, right now, a lot of companies bill infrequently for logistical reasons. As I just said in my fake made up example, let's say I'm this billing department and I have to hire these 3 people to chase invoices. Imagine if we decided to send 10 times as many invoices. Like, what a nightmare for my 3 people who have to keep track of this. Well, micropayments are kind of a new revolutionary concept that is much easier with blockchain technology and smart contracts, where instead of billing you once a month, I can bill you daily. I could bill you hourly. And it would be kind of set up almost like streaming payments, where the money would just be pulled from your wallet, essentially. It would be transacted on a schedule over a period of time. So, like, let's say halfway through, for whatever reason, you decide you're going to cancel, it just turns off. You don't have to worry about this idea of counterparty risk, where if I'm this consulting company and I go and bill you, I now have to trust that you're going to pay let's say I bill you in advance. Like, I'm going to charge you on day one. You might be worried, well, what if I'm a flake and I'm not going to do the thing? Well, that's counterparty risk on your part. Well, we could alternatively say, okay, well, I'll do all the work first and I'm going to bill you at the end, but then I have to trust that you're going to actually pay the bill. So regardless of how you do it in this sort of current system, whether you pay in advance or pay at the end, someone is taking risk. This is also the case with like your phone bill. Like some utilities bill you up front, some bill you after the month. That regardless of which model has been chosen, there is risk on one side of that arrangement. And micropayments can make that essentially go away for the most part. I mean, not totally go away, but massively reduced, because now I can bill you every hour. Just be a streaming thing. It doesn't necessarily matter because the transaction fees are so low that we then are removing this risk. Like, I'm now comfortable that I'm getting paid, and you're comfortable that you could turn it off if I'm not doing what I'm doing. And it removes that necessity of one party totally having to trust the other one. All right. What else do we want to talk about? So let's say you're a business and you are nervous about this transition. You've heard these blockchain things are coming, but your company's been doing it for a long time in a certain way. What are your options? How can you kind of move forward with this? Well, the first thing I would do is I would list out like what are all the things that you are paying. You have, my examples were payroll, you have, the bills you pay, the money that you receive. I would look at those things and understand what are the fees associated with them. Sometimes that fee is a literal like financial transaction fee, like a processing fee, or an ACH wire transfer fee, or a credit card interest rate if you for some reason carry balances on that. Sometimes that fee is a time fee. So if my money has to get held up for 2 days every 2 weeks, if I were to use that money in some other capacity, could I get a return on it? Is there an opportunity cost to participating in the float system? That helps you understand the financial consequences of the current thing. So then I would rank all those things and figure out which of these do we want to tackle first? How can we migrate one system at a time to the blockchain? Part of this too is preparing for it. You don't necessarily have to jump to implement blockchain-based payments immediately. If you know what's coming and you know how you're going to do it, then when the time is evident that this new financial system is here, you're like, sweet, we've been preparing for this for like 2 months. I'm good. I know what I'm talking about. There's also going to be some education involved, not only for you and your kind of close team, but let's say you bill clients and now you're going to bill them via blockchain. Do they know what a wallet is? Like, do they know how to send money to the blockchain? There's likely going to be some education required on your part to help prepare your end users for participating in these transactions. And even same with employees. So let's say you decide to move employees to blockchain payments. You're going to send them their payroll through this. Do they know how to receive it and what to do with it? My belief is that very soon, soon is relative term, right? Like the next, I think definitely this year, we're going to see a lot more banks talk about receiving digital assets in your traditional bank account. This, I think, will happen after stablecoin regulations they come. We've seen a lot of resistance. The financial regulators in the United States are held to a very different standard. Like if I worked at a company and just never did my job to create regulations for Congress to pass, or never put forth regulations that would provide clarity, you just didn't do it and you pretended it was done, you would probably get fired. So the government is somehow able to get by with this different set of rules. So for businesses, the more you prepare for this, you don't necessarily need to implement all of it right now because that might stress you out, which is fair. But the more you know, and the more your plan is kind of laid out, the easier it will be when your company makes the decision to switch. You might have a flip the switch moment at your company where everything gets moved over. You might have a little beta test run group where some of your clients get paid this way. I think different companies are going to handle that a little bit differently. But the thing that I am very confident of is that the businesses that do not prepare for this will be caught in a tough position. They may be at a financial loss. There may be consequences to delaying. They may simply become frazzled and crazy stressed out trying to implement this new stuff very, very quickly in a rushed manner. And they may end up losing business because competitors who are already ahead will, chomp onto opportunities more aggressively because they anticipated this change and are ready to go. So, all right. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one.